All right, at this time, it brings us to our last speaker of the day, but certainly not the least. In fact, we're all looking forward to the update that Amber is going to provide us. Amber Pastoor has spent the better part of her 20-year career leading key aspects of major project development in the U.S., Canada, and on the international scene, with a primary focus on land acquisition, regulatory approvals, environmental permitting, and stakeholder outreach. Amber has progressive experience leading, mentoring, and developing diverse teams of technical and non-technical subject matter experts. All of these skills have become very valuable in her current project and her active role with Enbridge. Throughout her career at Enbridge, Amber has led a team in the design and implementation of consultation programs on over 30 energy projects and further led the front-end project development on over 25 pipeline projects. She holds a Master of Arts in Journalism from the University of Western Ontario, a Bachelor of International Management from the University of Lethbridge, and an MBA from Cornell Queen's Executive MBA program. Here to give us a bit of an update on the Enbridge Straits Tunnel project is Amber Pastoor.
Thanks. Oh, I'm going to come over here. Yeah, thank you. Set my timer. I'm a little bit nervous. I was in Ann Arbor last week speaking at a college, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Enbridge can be a bit of a spicy topic in some places, so perhaps you know that. In the spring of 2016, let me get my slides up here. I had what I like to refer to as an Oprah-worthy aha moment. And it's my goal today to share my aha moment with all of you so that when you leave this room, you feel as inspired and as excited as I do about the Great Lakes Tunnel Project. As economic development leaders, community leaders, business leaders, and government leaders, I would like each of you to leave here today sharing the same vision on what this tunnel project means to the UP, to Michigan, and in fact, North America. A reliable and affordable source of energy, and to feel confident that energy and sustainability can in fact coexist, and I believe that this project is a real-life example of that in action. I also want to create an opportunity for you to get to know me so that I can prove my readiness to you to get this project done, to demonstrate to you, I guess, my unwavering commitment to get this tunnel built and to realize the potential that I think it offers the UP and Michigan. Oftentimes, it's easy to see a corporate logo and not realize that there's actual human beings behind that logo who care deeply about what they do. So if I could just take a minute and hopefully give you a chance to get to know me a little, because I'm going to ask for your trust as we're out there, my colleagues and I, in your community. So I would like to let you know that I grew up in a small Canadian city about 1 hour north of the Montana border. The primary industries there were agriculture and ranching. My mother is a first-generation Canadian-Italian, and my father actually was born in Holland and moved to Canada as a child. Neither of my parents hold post-secondary degrees, not one of them. My father barely graduated high school. There are stories rumors amongst our family that he may or may not have actually even been expelled from high school at some point in time. I can't get the scoop, but just to let you know. My parents were both partners in life and business. That Mary from Hurley is gone, but as she was talking, I couldn't help think of her story and think of my family. In fact, there has never been a period of time in my lifetime when my parents have not owned and operated at least one business. Even in retirement, my father continues to own a trucking company, and he'll drive occasionally, delivering goods. My parents always provided good jobs, well-made products and services to help meet the needs of the people living in our community. Everything that my sister and I had came from my parents' unwavering commitment to hard work. Nothing was handed to them. Everything we had was earned, what sometimes meant family vacations had to be postponed, and dinner conversations and I mean always, included work talk. We had hard times, but we never went without. My parents would say to me and my sister, "You have one job. Your only job is to go to college. You will work hard, you get good grades, and we'll make sure you get through college." That's what they said all the time. Translation, if you get good grades, we'll pay for your school. We'll get you through college. All they ever wanted was that we achieved more than what they were able to achieve. And this is what I want to give back to you and to your communities. My only job now is to work hard, build a team, and get this tunnel built for you, for your communities, and for your families, and to make sure that you always have a reliable and affordable source of energy. Now, I will share with you, though, in a very interesting turn of events, my parents are serial entrepreneurs, and I find it a little bit interesting as I reflect back on my life that I found myself really attracted to public sector, in fact. My most significant work experiences actually came working at post-secondary institutions, and then I worked for the federal government in their national park system. When I look back, I find that quite fascinating. Let's just say it made for some really interesting and sometimes really spicy holiday dinner conversations, because almost always I'd have to end up explaining to my parents how their tax dollars weren't being wasted. So that always got a little bit dicey sometimes. On December 3rd, 2008, I joined Enbridge, and while there was differences, it was eye-opening for me, actually, moving from the public center to an organization like Enbridge. A lot of things different about that. It was interesting. But one thing never changed. One thing never changed. My pride and commitment for what I do. And let me be crystal clear about that. I feel just as proud working at Enbridge and ensuring that people have energy to meet the needs, to meet their quality of life, as I did working in a university and as I did working protecting the environment in a national park. And that is one thing that I never waver on. In fact, what many don't appreciate is that not only does Enbridge actually operate the world's largest crude oil and natural gas pipeline systems, it is actually also one of the largest renewable energy providers. Energy and sustainability can coexist. And I believe it's companies like Enbridge that are actually part of the solution. They're part of the solution to the future. So we touch probably everybody in here. All of your lives are touched every day as we sit here. Our mainline system is delivering natural gas and crude oil products, but we also own 21 wind farms. We have 4 solar facilities, 5 heat recovery. We have a geothermal near Boise, Idaho. Our renewable energy sector as well, just generating enough electricity to provide power for a community of about 900,000 now. So sometimes that get lost in the mix, and I like to point that out because I truly believe when we look to our future and we look down the road, it's companies like Enbridge that are going to be there servicing all the energy needs. While my feeling of pride continues, it's not always easy. Personally, I will share with you that there's been times, when people have asked me how I can sleep at night, have accused me of everything from black lung disease. It takes different forms. Sometimes, I'll confess to you guys in this room, in moments of weakness, I feel a little sorry for myself. Sometimes I'll reflect on the days a long time ago when I used to say to people, and I can remember this, I started at Enbridge, it's been 12 years, and I would say, I work for Enbridge, and they would say, where? What? What do you do? What? I'm like, we deliver energy. And they're like, what do you mean? And that would have been the response. That's not the response anymore, but that's fine. Now for the aha. Let me take you to the aha. So spring of 2016, I spent a transformative 30 minutes with a woman by the name of Suzanne West. And that name probably means nothing to most of you, but I would just want to take a moment and recognize this amazing woman. She was an inspirational force within the oil and gas industry. After a career with Imperial Oil, Suzanne actually moved to become a director in North American's West Plains company. Eventually, she felt a need to start her own oil and gas exploration company. After attending a retreat on Richard Branson's private island, she went to a retreat on Richard Branson's private island, which I think is pretty cool. She was inspired to begin her own company that focused on environmental stewardship in a new oil and gas company. It was called Imaginea Energy Corp. Sadly, Suzanne passed away on March 6, 2018 from brain cancer, and she didn't get to realize what her dream was for Imaginea, but I was lucky enough to spend 30 minutes with her in 2016. It changed my perspective forever. At this particular moment in time, I was feeling quite discouraged. We were really seeing the impact of well-organized, well-funded environmental groups. They were using pipelines as a proxy to advance anti-hydrocarbon and climate change agendas. And their political pressure was starting to influence regulators, landowners, elected officials, and what that resulted in was increased scrutiny on all of our projects. So changes to regulatory processes, consultation times, decision-making timelines were being completely unpredictable. And I'm talking to Suzanne about this, and she, as I talked with her, she reminded me that the energy industry, large companies like Enbridge, as well as environmental groups, were stuck in what she called the tyranny of ore. And what the problem is where our discussion is going, is we've gotten to this place where you're either a crazy tree hugger or you're a greedy capitalist. And that's where the conversation has devolved down into. And what she pointed out to me and what inspired me was where we need to get to is and. Where all of us need to get to is an and conversation. We shouldn't accept anything less. You can care about the planet, and you can deliver a reliable source of energy, and you can care about people. You can care about jobs, you can care about communities. And this is what I believe the Great Lakes Tunnel Project is. The Great Lakes Tunnel Project is an and project. And this is the vision that we should all be striving for. Along with the vision of and, I think we also have to know why. Why are we doing this? Why am I standing in front of you talking about this project? Enbridge isn't pursuing this project because we must do it. We're pursuing this project because we should, but because it's part of an and vision of the future. We can safely and reliably deliver energy, and we can care about the planet, and we can care about people. And I think it's critical that we all remember this, because as the tunnel project continues to move forward, I can promise you right now, it's going to get tough. Once we file our applications and we start to see some of those opponents, it's gonna get tough out there. And I think that in order to move forward, we'll have to be resilient and we'll have to persevere. So I think it's important that we remember that we keep that and vision of the future front and center, and that we remember why we're doing this. So I show up every day, every morning to work. I feel proud to be part of a team that will get this tunnel built and ensure a reliable and affordable delivery of energy to the UP and to Michigan. And now I want to talk to you specifically about the tunnel. Has anybody ever heard me talk about the tunnel yet? Anyone here? Wait, I see a hand back there. That gentleman back there, you've heard me talk. So I have an expectation, because when I talk about the tunnel, I like to educate people. I like to give you just enough information where you could be a little bit dangerous. You can talk, you're going to learn a little bit of the language. So that gentleman at the back, I can see you right there, right, with the glasses? Yeah, right there. I have an expectation that you have you're kind of up to speed. You can help be part of our learning here. And if I ask you what a TBM is, do you know what it is? Thank you. Yes, good. Okay, good. All of you too. I like to speak in acronyms. So the first thing I want to do is let's talk about how you build a project, because I'll tell you that often I was talking with someone recently and they're like, what's taking so long? So you're going to start construction? And I'm like, start construction? No, not yet. So this is the critical steps in building a tunnel. But I will share with you that this is the critical steps in building most major infrastructure projects. As Brett was telling you, I've worked directly on probably over 50 projects actually in various roles if I add them all up. By the way, some of those have been solar and some of those have been wind. If you want to talk about that, I can talk to you about those as well. But these are kind of the steps in a project. I made it specific to tunnel, but the first thing you have to do is a feasibility. What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? We already did that. We spent 2018 doing that. The next thing you want to do is put together a project team. This one really hurts, you guys. This one hurts me right in the heart whenever I hear some of our opponents say Enbridge isn't serious about building a tunnel. Because not only is my only job right now building a tunnel, I dream tunnel. I have a team of over 20 people who work every single day only on building a tunnel. And we've just looked to hire a designing engineering firm and a construction firm that can provide us a pre-construction service, a counsel on constructability. There's probably over 50 people already working on this project alone, making sure we're moving it forward. So that one hurts. The next step was the geological investigation. This is probably, this is probably something that's a bit, do I have a little pointer? Oh, I do. Great. This is probably the one that's interesting and unique to the underground world. I wish the Baco gentleman was still here. The next step we have to do was understand what do you think the material is of a tunnel? I want to ask my friend right there who was at my presentation before. Do you remember? I like to talk about this. Concrete? Maybe, kinda. Anyone else? What's the material of building? If you think of steel is to a pipeline, this is to building a tunnel. It's up, there's a clue up there. No? Rock. It's the rock. It's the soil. It's the material that your tunnel is going to be built within. So the way you understand that, because you can't just go, if we're building a pipeline, we can go down to the Evraz or to the factory or whatever it is, and our quality controls will stand there, and they'll watch that steel being rolled off the mine, off the floor, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to say, does this look good? Well, you don't have that luxury when your material is rock. So what you have to do is a geotechnical investigation program. So that's what we've done. Then we're going to go on to design, permit. Then we have to order our long lead items. The tunnel boring machine, TBM, is one of those. Then we can start construction. All of this stuff has to happen first. So where are we? Well, let's look back. 2019 is the year of the rock, I like to call it. So 2019, the year of the rock, what we did was we spent the whole entire year to create a document called a GDR, a Geotechnical Data Report. It is no less than 2,561 pages of the most titillating reading you'll ever have, not at all. Is there any geologists in the room? Geologists in the room? Awesome. Okay, you and I can geek out on this. I'm not actually a geologist, but when I think back, if I was 18 and I knew what I know now, I think I might like to have been a geologist. What we did is, do pay attention to let me just go back one. Pay attention to the image behind you. This is what we gathered. So 2019, as we're out there, I know some of you are aware of the vessel. We had that DP vessel. We had the jack-up barge. Did anybody see that? If you went out to the straits, you could see the vessels out there. What were they doing? This is what they were doing. So they were gathering this material. This is hot off the presses, you guys. This is what came right out of the Straits of Mackinac. You're looking at it. So what we were doing was gathering samples about, the picture doesn't show you, but you can, I can tell you it's about kind of the size of this pop can. And they come out in 5-foot intervals, and then the geologists go there and geek out on all of this stuff. But really, the rest of us, we combined all of that raw data into what we call the Geotechnical Data Report. It's just a data report. There's no subjectivity to it. There's no art to it. It is just, what did we find? What did it look like? What is the strength of it? What is the abrasivity of it? And we put it into this report, and what we've achieved now, $40 million later, 8 months of doing geotechnical data, was we have a detailed understanding of the soil and rock conditions in the straits, especially in the deep channel. Now, some people will often say to me, why don't you just use what they did with the bridge? Anybody know why that, the bridge, just for some context, is about, what, a mile to the east-ish, Emma? A mile to the east of where Line 5, the dual pipelines are? About a mile. Why don't you think the data on the bridge isn't totally going to cut it? It's a pretty cool bridge. I got to tell you, and that bridge has been standing as long as those pipelines have been operating. What's that, going on over 67 years almost? Anybody have any ideas on why we couldn't just use the bridge data? Why we had to go out and gather more? Thoughts? Current? I got current here. I got changes over time. What about you? Any thoughts? I like to make my conversations interactive, so I hope you guys are open to that. Thoughts? Oh, you said currents. Yeah. Well, not so much, because we're quite below. Some of this is about 200 feet below or 300 feet plus below the lake bottom. But the actual reason is because Mother Nature is tricky. Mother Nature is tricky, and the formation of the straits is really tricky too. You could drill and do a sample of the earth. We could go right now and go right through into the ground here, and we could pull up a core, and it could maybe look like this right here. And I don't know, it could be breccia or it could be cobble or whatever it is. And then I could literally walk, I don't know, 4 steps over here and drill to the exact same depth and get something completely different. So that bridge being a mile up, well, that's informative, and we are using that data to try to create a picture. The thing is that you could literally find cobble here, which is like loose rocks like this, and I could go right to where you are, Roxanne, and it could be sand. And literally this close. So that's why you want to get as much data as you can. I always tell people at the end of the day, we'll never actually know what is exactly there until the very moment, the very second that our tunnel boring machine is there in that spot. Then and only then. But in the meantime, the geologists have so much fun. You should see these people trying to piece it all together. And this is what it looks like. I love this. This is one of my new favorite drawings. So this is it. This is, so borehole 19-23, hang on a second, oh yeah. This, you guys, this is, there be dragons. Before we started the is there any Game of Thrones fans in here? Hopefully a couple of you are. Here be dragons, we used to say about this. This is the deepest this is the deepest part of the Straits of Mackinac. This is the deep, unknown river valley. Nobody knows what's there. Guess what? We now actually have a lot of idea of what's there. This is probably about 250 feet at the deepest part of the channel of water depth up there. This borehole, I want to say borehole 24A went down 315 feet into the lake bottom. So you can't see it here, nor should you. And by the way, this is a hot off the press preview. I probably shouldn't even be showing this, but we're messing around with some of the alignments and looking at the tunnel, some of the tunnel ideas or where it would. It's an iterative process. But this, if you could tell, if you had the legend, you would see that all of this represents all different kinds of rock and soils and characteristics that we found. This is the overburden. Now, people will often ask me, did you find anything that you didn't anticipate? The answer to that is no, we did not. I had a professor from the Colorado School of Mines lecture me one time at a nice evening out, lecturing me on that geotechnical programs are not exploratory, they are informative. You shouldn't be surprised by anything. And I'm rolling my eyes at her going, really? Because my life is turned upside down right now doing this in confirmatory program, which I think is exploratory, but it is actually kind of true. The point she was making is the geologists have studied this area and regions, and we have data from the bridge, and they go and study the outcrops and what they do see. We didn't find any characteristics that we didn't expect, but what we did find was just the magnitude of them, how deep the overburden was. These are all formations. This is called the Point O'Shens, and then we've got the St. Ignace. So what it is just what those formations are. It's about clarifying. But you know what we were debating yesterday? I was with the team. We were talking about it, and this exact hole right here, we were debating how far does the St. Ignace Foundation go? What did we find here? Is the line exactly here? We don't know. And in fact, you would never know unless you put a horizontal drill and drilled from here to here. Only then, and only then would you know, and only then would you know for that 5-inch horizontal drill that you have there. That's the crazy thing about all these rocks. They change. They're all over the place. So this is what we did. This is what we gathered. So we drilled 20 marine boreholes. I want to say 14 in the deep channel, 6 in the near shore. And then we put them together on plots like this. And then we look at them. And then we look about what alignment might the tunnel take. And then we start looking about that. And we start debating what makes most sense. Because this Point O'Shen, by the way, is really good, kind of nice, but the challenge here is the deeper you get, the higher pressure you're under, and those are all the things you have to think about when you're building a tunnel. So this, I'm really proud to say, the picture's a bit fuzzy, but this is what we call the core shed. And the core shed is where we keep all of the cores. All of everything that we discovered in the bottom of the Straits of Mackinac are all laid out, and what we were able to do, and I'm really proud of this, is we were able to imagine this is the north side. This is the north side of the bridge. This is the south side of the bridge. Well, it goes off the screen there. And then these are the boreholes that we drilled. So what we did, we strung them all out. And then you can walk, and you could walk down, starting at the top, 10 feet under, 20, 50, 60, all the way down to, in the deepest hole we drilled, I think, was around 320 feet below the mud line. And you can go all the way down and look at everything what you discovered. I like to say to people, it's like Ancestry.com for the Straits of Mackinac, because it really is. It really is. And when you, by the time you get to somewhere, you have to excuse me. I'm not doing this because I'm Canadian. You should know my sister is American. My nephew was born in the US. My parents live here half the time. They speak in meters because it's just more precise. So by the time you get to like 70 meters-ish, so it is that 220 feet, we're talking rock and soil that's 400, oh, you're doing my math for me? Oh, I thought you were. He was kind of looking, and I was like, it looks like he's calculating what 67 meters might be in feet. Someone else could do that. By the time you get down that deep, that rock that you're finding is 400 million years old. And what we've observed, wait, okay, I'll save that. Okay, so anyways, so this is the core shed. You can see all of the cores all laid out. You know what, when you think about it, and we saw that DP vessel, and the DP vessel was impressive, I must say so myself, if I do say so myself. But when you're going, imagine, at the deepest part of the strait, the water is 200 I said 150, that's wrong. It's like 250 feet probably at the deepest part of the channel. So imagine, and also we promised the environmental regulators that we wouldn't have any of the drilling fluid go anywhere, even though it's bentonite, it's not harmful, but we made that commitment. So they had to put casing down. So imagine you have 250 feet of casing, and then you want to go like another 200 feet or so. So how they do that is they weld it, they screw it all together, and as they're moving it down. So what they do to get those samples is they have a barrel, they call it a core barrel, and they'll pull those up into 5-foot intervals. So that's why it's laid out like this. So when you go here, you could see like this would be run whatever if I magnified this, and then you can see where that's a pool noodle. It really is a pool noodle. It's highly sophisticated. So that means that on this core barrel, so that this is a 5-foot run, that means we weren't able to recover what was there. And you can see, actually, that's a bit rocky, so it's probably not that deep. So then they'll put for the geologists, though, they want to know that. That's informative for them. So then we'll use the pool noodle. So anyways, so these are all in like 5-foot intervals, and that's because that's what you can manage. Could you imagine trying to pull up a 100-foot sample? You just couldn't do it. So that's why we do it in 5-foot intervals. So that's what, Emma, how am I doing for time? 2:08. How much time do I have? Okay. Now, okay, good, because I really want to do this. I want to introduce you to borehole 19-28. When the gentleman back at the back table there was listening to me talk, I probably would have talked about borehole 19-16, but this is my new favorite, 19-28. So 19-28 is not the deepest, so it's not the sexiest one. Most people like to go to the deepest one. I like this guy right here, and I'll show you why. This is, I wish the color is a little bit off. My picture wasn't high enough quality for this big of resolution. But this is actually, the core box next to it went as deep as 67 meters. So then this one would be another, probably, I want to say 70 meters down. So that's about over 220 feet in from the mud line. And we discovered what I like, quite frankly, about borehole 19-28 is not only is it really nice quality tunneling material, it's really good. What we measure this and we call it an RQD. It's a factor that you want 100% means it's hard like a table, well, harder than probably a table, but super hard. And if you have like a 0, it means it's loose. So this had a really good rating, so it's really nice material for our tunnel boring machine to go through, but it was also beautiful. It was very, like the coloring in it. So this is, at that depth, is hundreds of millions years old. So we've learned amazing things about the strait. Nobody would be surprised. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised here to know there was, of course, a river valley in the deep river channel. there was a river valley. Do you know what we discovered was literally river rocks? It's like I went to Home Depot and I bought those little white river rocks so I could go and put them in my garden to make it look pretty. We literally found that, 200 feet into the earth. And what the scientists do, well, let me show you. The other cool thing, and I was messing around with PowerPoint and having fun because I feel like it needs a curtain. My new favorite current piece, I used to have Echinoderm. Echinoderm was a fossil. It was a type of shell creature that lived 400 million years. This is also equally old, but this is, I'm trying to come up with the name for this particular assortment of, with my geologist here, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to make you feel bad. It's completely unfair. Any guesses on what this is? Give this man a medal. Yes, 100%. It's not a coral though. But you're right. The reason why I am so impressed with you is because it's called a bryozoine. Oh, I keep getting it wrong. The geologists are always making fun of me. Anyways, it is coral-like. That's why I make up names like Iggy the Echinoderm. It took me forever. But this is coral-like little critters. And while they were very, very, very small, they lived in little colonies. They're very sophisticated. They had digestive systems and different things like that. This was actually found on one of the borings we did onshore, on the south side near the Enbridge pump station. But again, we're going back hundreds of millions of years, and so this is evidence that these little critters lived there. And the fact that these little critters lived there, again, is further evidence that where the water was and where the rivers were and where the seas were. It goes back to the Devonian period. They call the Devonian period the time of fish. It's when fish started to really come into being, fish as we know it. It's hard for us to even imagine this. Sometimes I just like to go and touch this piece of rock or touch Iggy the Echinoderm because you're touching 400, I can barely wrap my brain around for what 400 million years ago is. I don't know, am I the only one? Do you guys know what I mean? Like, this predates humans. There was not even people, but there was fish. The Byzantine period, part of the Devonian as I understand it, man, I'm really out of my depth now, I should stop talking, but is a 60 million year period stretching from like 340 million years ago to 400 million years ago. Geologists, how am I doing? Am I completely, between the Devonian and the Byzantine and all that, these different, the Bois Blanc and all the different formations, it's fascinating. But again, why we care though, is because it's gonna help us make sure we can build the tunnel safely, efficiently, and as quickly as we possibly can. So we're gonna take all of this data, and the most important, well, there's three, actually. The three most important decisions we're gonna make is it's gonna help us determine the characteristics of our tunnel boring machine. Tunnel boring machines are incredibly sophisticated pieces of equipment. The tunnel boring machine will probably have for the straight, we'll have the tunnel face, and then it will have trailing gear that's probably, comes in gantries, it's probably about 300 feet. I don't know, I'd say it will be about the size of this room. That's how big the tunnel boring machine is of itself. The sexy part's the face. That's all anybody really cares about. But all of this material here is where all the electric is, the hydraulics, the muck that comes out. So it's going to help us determine, because that tunnel boring machine will be designed to go through every single thing that we found in the straits. So it needs to be unique. And by the way, we found everything. I was joking with the designers yesterday. We have this amazing design team on board, and we were like, we have everything in this. By the way, the underground industry is a teeny, tiny international community, and they are so excited about this project. We're making news around the world when it comes to this project. And one of the things we were joking about is that in the Straits, we have it all. We've got glacial till, we've got cobble, we've got all kinds of, again, all stuff we thought we'd find and we did. And so it's a really neat project. So we're gonna make sure that our tunnel boring machine can go through all of that kind of material. The other thing it's gonna do is help us design the rock cutting tools. Tunnel boring machines, as sophisticated as they are, at the front of that cutter head is just big, hard bits of steel that are churning up and cutting through the ground. And guess what happens to them over time? That tunnel is 4 miles. It's going to take us probably 2 years to get across. Guess what happens over time when you got steel cutting through rock? Yes, It wears out and it needs to be changed. And when you're at that kind of, as far under the lake bed as we're gonna be, the pressure is really high. You can't just send out a dude with his like little changing tools to go out onto a pressurized area at the front of the tunnel boring machine to change out cutter heads. So that has to be planned and thought through. So we'll know what we have to go through so we can minimize the amount of time we have to do that. The third thing it's going to help us do is the characteristics of the concrete lining. The commitment Enbridge made to the state is we're going to line the tunnel with concrete. We're talking somewhere between 12 and 14 inches thick all the way around the tunnel. So we need to understand the abrasivity. We need to understand the strength of everything that's around so that we can design that. And finally, and probably the thing I'm most excited about, is going to inform the precise placement of the tunnel, the vertical alignment and the horizontal alignment. We have a sense, we've got some ideas, but now we're really getting into the weeds on that. So that's what that looks like. Tunnel boring machines, again, that's what they look like in the front. They're pieces of computer equipment juxtaposed against pretty old school steel just hammering through rock. So really neat piece of equipment. This is looking into a tunnel boring machine. So this tunnel boring machine wasn't pressurized. It had a up to the front. This is a tunnel in Cleveland. I was in it. They were changing out the cutter tools, so it was stopped. That's why I was able to look into it. Ours won't be that simple because it'll be pressurized. So we're going to have to use, they call it saturation diving. And that's for my next talk. So I want to be invited back, and we're going to talk about that. This is more of the cutter tools. Ours isn't going to look like this, though, exactly. Ours is going to be a bit different, probably. These are as the business owners in here all getting excited. These are the concrete segments. So this one is also a concrete line. So look at all of the concrete segments we're going to be producing. What's next? So remember I said 2020 was the year of rock. 2019 was the year of rock. 2020 is the year of people, I call it. We're going into detailed design. So we take all that information that we learned, and we're going to get into the weeds on design. And then we're on the precipice of filing our applications. Our regulatory and environmental applications are coming out in the next month or two. So I call it the year of the people because that's all about people. So this is just a portion of the team that is working on our tunnel project, on your tunnel project. This is just some of them. They are an amazing group. We have a lot of fun together as we dig into the weeds. So the next two key activities, we have two priorities in 2020, permitting and detailed design. And it will take that long, by the way, to design this. It's a long process. It's an iterative process. You've got to go through. You have to unpack all of that geological data. You have to design how many times you need to think you need to change the cutter heads, and all of that. All of that stuff is planned and thought through, and it becomes part of that detailed design. The phases of the project, just out of interest, because I think people are interested, is we've started preliminary design. That's where we're in right now. Once we get through preliminary design, we'll kick off into detailed. We're going to be doing our permits. We'll look at long lead procurements as well for the TBM in the summer, fall of this year. We have a constructor on board providing us constructability. Engineers in the room? I know there's got to be some. No engineers in this room? Oh, wow. All right. Okay, well, then I can say this without retribution, maybe, unless some of you are lying. Engineers are wonderful. Engineers will get down and they'll get with their pencils and they're going to design stuff, but it's the dudes with the dirt under their fingernails that bring it all together. And so what we've done for this project is we've got some construction services already coming so that while we're doing detailed designs, the people with the dirt under their fingernails are coming in, and at the same time, does this make sense? Is this the best way to do it? How can we do it better? Because when you marry those two aspects, that's when you get gold. Then we'll go into phase 2, which will probably begin in about Q3 of 2021. That would be the construction phase. So we're hoping that we can do the permitting process in about 18 months. So we're looking at Q3 of 2021 to begin construction. So we got a bit of time. Got a bit of time as we work through permitting and we work through detailed design. That's just another cool look. at the core shed. But I guess I wanted to just leave you with a couple of final thoughts. I think that Enbridge has a really bold vision for the Great Lakes Tunnel project. As we move forward, we're going to be looking for opportunities from people like all of you in this room, as a matter of fact, and throughout the state to be involved. As many of you know, the dual pipelines across the straits were built primarily by Michigan workers. And I think the more I sat here today and learned more about the pride that you guys have, the quality, the integrity, I think the quality and integrity, quite frankly, of Line 5, it's been in operation now for 67 years, is a testament to the skill and the professionalism in the Michigan labor force. I don't think anyone in this crowd would disagree with that. I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to hear my boss, my big boss, Al Monaco, speak. He spoke in Detroit last fall, and one of the things he said struck with me. I wanted to reiterate it to you guys. I will read it because I want to get it right. But he said, Michigan is renowned across North America as possessing many of the best tradespeople, and we want their skills, their talents, their commitment to excellence as we build this project. And as the project manager, I'm on the same page. I'm obviously on the same page as him, not just because he's my boss, but because I'm right there with him. So I'm excited about this project, and let's go build ourselves a tunnel. Thanks, you guys.
Excuse me, Amber, thank you. Before you go too far, I'm guessing the crowd has more than a question or two. So
Awesome.
we're happy to field them for anyone who would have a question.
No questions about the tunnel? Yeah. Good question. Yeah. That is, I'm going to give you an unsatisfying answer right now. I'm going to tell you we don't know yet. That's part of the detailed design. We're looking at a range. So, the feasibility report had said, something like 10-foot inner diameter. It's going to be bigger than that, for sure. That was the minimum size to put the 30-inch pipeline in. We're looking at something bigger than that, and it would not be smart of me to start sharing all that as our designers are working on that very question. I spent the last 2 days talking about that, so bear with me. That'll be coming, but it'll be larger than probably 16 feet for sure inside. Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Where are you at on the some of the legal challenges that you're looking at?
Where are we at? You know what? I think we're hopeful and optimistic about how things are moving forward with the state. I keep my nose to the grindstone on the project. Man, you guys are giving me two answers where I can't give you. I am aware of all of that going on. I keep myself focused on the project. I cannot answer that question. I would need one of my other law colleagues to do that, because I just know they tell me, Amber, keep working, and I'm going to keep working until somebody physically taps me on the shoulder and says stop. So I'm still moving forward. That's what I can say about that. But maybe we can take offline with Mike or someone, and I can tell you. But we've won some of the cases. Things are looking good, and we're still moving forward. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Any others? If not, thank you, Amber. Thanks again.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.